Before your thoughts rush ahead, pause here for a second, because something unusual has already begun moving toward you. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly, almost carefully, as if life itself is trying not to disturb the fragile moment that is about to unfold. There is a reason your eyes found these words tonight. A reason your spirit suddenly feels pulled towards something it cannot fully explain yet. And somewhere, beyond what you can currently see, a door has already started opening for you long before you realized you were searching for one. There is a house connected to your future. Not just walls, not just windows, not just another place on another street. This place carries an energy that has been waiting for your footsteps without even knowing your name yet. Strange, isn't it? How certain places begin preparing for us before we arrive. How a room can somehow feel familiar before we have ever stood inside it. Stay till the end, because what is slowly revealing itself here may connect pieces of your story you thought would remain scattered forever. The first thing you would notice about this house is not its size. It is not luxury. It is not perfection. It is the feeling. The strange calm surrounding it. The kind that silences the noise inside your chest for just a moment. Imagine standing outside on a quiet evening while soft light glows through a window you cannot fully see into yet. Imagine feeling as though the life you have been carrying, the exhaustion, the confusion, the endless wondering, suddenly becomes lighter there. Not gone. Just lighter. As if the house itself understands things you have never been able to explain to anyone. And there is someone connected to this place. Someone whose path has been moving closer to yours in ways neither of you completely understand yet. Their energy is quieter than people expect. They do not force attention. They do not need to. There is something about them that feels steady, grounded, almost like a person who has spent years learning how to protect peace because they once lived without it. Don't skip this part, because the detail about them that matters most is not what they own. It is what they have been protecting inside themselves while waiting for the right person to finally arrive. You may think this story is about a house. But slowly, very slowly, you will realize it is actually about belonging. Because deep down, you have been carrying a silent question for longer than you admit. Where do I truly fit? Not temporarily. Not emotionally borrowed. Truly fit. And the strange thing is, this future place begins answering that question before you even fully step inside it. There is a hallway there that somehow feels connected to a memory you forgot years ago. There is a kitchen filled with warmth that reminds your soul what comfort feels like again. There is a window where late-night conversations happen softly while the world outside finally stops demanding so much from you. Something important is waiting for you in this message because the picture connected to this house is not valuable because of what it shows, it is valuable because of what it awakens inside you. Recognition. Familiarity. A feeling that maybe your future is not as distant as you feared. But here is where the story becomes even stranger. The person connected to this house almost gave up on the idea of sharing their life with anyone. They learned to live privately. Quietly. They convinced themselves it was safer not to expect too much from people anymore. Yet recently, something shifted. A feeling entered their heart unexpectedly. Not loudly. Not suddenly. More like a soft realization appearing in the middle of an ordinary moment. The realization that someone was coming into their life who would understand them without endless explanations. And somehow, your energy reached them before your presence ever did. There are moments when they walk through the rooms alone and pause without knowing why. Moments when they imagine another laugh echoing beside theirs. Another pair of footsteps crossing the floor. Another presence turning an empty space into a living memory. They do not fully understand these thoughts yet. But the house feels less empty when they imagine you there. That is the part they have not told anyone. You know what is beautiful? The future rarely arrives all at once. It whispers first. It leaves small signs. Tiny emotional echoes. Little feelings that refuse to disappear. And maybe that is why these words found you now instead of later. Because something inside you was ready to hear them. There is one room inside this house that matters more than all the others. Oddly enough, it is not the largest room. It is simple. Quiet. Almost hidden. Yet this is where an important conversation eventually happens. A conversation where silence feels safe instead of awkward. A conversation where you stop pretending to be stronger than you are. And when that moment arrives, something heavy you have carried for years finally loosens its grip on your heart. Can you feel it? Not certainty. Not answers. Just movement. Like life is slowly rearranging itself behind the scenes while you continue living ordinary days without realizing how close certain moments already are. The picture connected to this story almost disappeared before you could see it. That is what makes this feel so unusual. Timing. Tiny moments aligning perfectly. 1 second too late and perhaps the message would have passed by unnoticed. But you are here now. Reading this now. Feeling this now. And somewhere tonight, someone else is unknowingly thinking about a future they cannot fully describe yet either. A future that somehow includes you. There is something almost impossible to explain about the way destiny moves when two lives begin drifting toward the same place without realizing it. It does not happen with loud announcements. It happens quietly, through feelings that arrive at strange times. Through moments that seem ordinary on the surface but linger in your mind far longer than they should. And tonight, another layer of this story is beginning to unfold because the house is not just waiting for your presence anymore. It is slowly changing because of it. Not physically. Emotionally. The person connected to that home has started noticing little things lately. They pause longer in certain rooms. They leave lights on without meaning to. They imagine conversations while standing alone near the kitchen counter late at night. Even the silence inside the house feels different now, as though the space itself senses someone is coming closer. Stay a little longer. Because the detail they discovered recently may explain why your heart suddenly feels pulled toward this message. A few nights ago, they found an old photograph hidden between pages of something they had not touched in years. The picture was simple. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet moment frozen in time. But the strange part was not the image itself. It was the feeling that came with it. A feeling that their life was about to change in a way they could no longer avoid pretending not to notice. They stared at the picture longer than expected, almost as if they were searching for someone who was not there yet. And somehow, your energy crossed their mind. Not your face clearly. Not your name. Just a feeling. Familiar. calm, real. You would be surprised how powerful recognition can feel before two people even fully meet. Sometimes the soul notices first. Sometimes the heart quietly prepares itself before logic catches up. That is why this story feels deeper than coincidence. Because something inside both of you has already begun adjusting to the idea of each other. There is a corner inside that house where morning sunlight enters softly through tall windows. Most people would walk past it without noticing anything special. But one day, you will stop there without understanding why. You will feel something settle inside you. Not excitement. Not shock. Peace. The kind of peace that does not need to prove itself. The kind that arrives after years of emotional noise and finally whispers, "You can rest now." Don't skip this moment in the story, because this is where everything slowly becomes more personal. The person connected to this home has spent years trying to appear stronger than they truly felt. They learned how to carry disappointment silently. Learned how to smile while hiding exhaustion. Learned how to protect their heart by keeping certain rooms inside themselves locked away from everyone else. But lately, they have started opening windows they once promised would remain closed forever. Why? Because your arrival is already affecting them in ways they cannot explain. There are nights when they sit quietly thinking about the future, and instead of feeling fear like before, they feel curiosity. That alone is changing them. For the first time in a long time, they are beginning to imagine a life shared instead of survived alone. Imagine how powerful that is. Imagine what it means when a person who stopped expecting connection suddenly begins preparing emotionally for someone they have not fully met yet. And the house feels it too. The atmosphere inside has changed subtly. Softer music plays now. Certain spaces are being reorganized without reason. Small details are being noticed more carefully. It is almost as if the home itself is preparing to hold memories that have not happened yet. Quiet dinners. Late-night talks. Laughter echoing unexpectedly through hallways that once held only silence. But here is the part nobody else knows. There is one object inside that house they refuse to throw away even though it no longer serves any purpose. Every time they try, something stops them. A strange hesitation. A feeling that it belongs to a future moment they have not reached yet. They do not understand why they keep it. They only know it matters. And somehow, it connects to you. The closer this story moves toward its reveal, the more emotional it becomes because this was never truly about a building. It was about finding the place where your spirit no longer feels temporary. The place where your presence is not tolerated, but welcomed naturally. Fully. Quietly. Completely. Something important is waiting for you beyond this point because very soon, the picture connected to this house will reveal a detail no one expected to matter. A detail hidden in the background that changes the emotional meaning of everything. And once you notice it, you will not be able to unsee it. Not every life-changing moment arrives with noise. Some arrive disguised as a tiny detail most people would overlook in seconds. A reflection in a window. A chair slightly pulled away from the table. A second coffee cup sitting quietly beside the first. And the strange thing is, the deeper this story unfolds, the more it becomes clear that the picture connected to this house was never meant to be seen casually. It was meant to be felt. Because hidden in the background of that image is something almost impossible to explain logically. A space prepared for someone who had not arrived yet. The person connected to this home noticed it accidentally. At first, they laughed it off. Thought maybe they were overthinking. But the feeling refused to leave. They kept returning to the picture over and over again, staring at one particular corner of the room where everything seemed strangely intentional. Not perfect. Not staged. Just waiting. And suddenly, without warning, they felt emotional. Not because they were lonely. Because deep inside, they realized they no longer wanted to build a future alone. That realization changed something in them permanently. You see, before this point, they had convinced themselves they were fine carrying everything by themselves. Fine eating in silence. Fine returning home to empty rooms. Fine pretending independence never became exhausting sometimes. But recently, life has been softening them. Slowly. Carefully. As if something greater knew their heart needed time before it could trust happiness again. And now your energy keeps appearing in their thoughts in unexpected ways. A song plays, and they wonder who would sit beside them listening to it. Rain touches the windows, and they imagine someone standing nearby sharing the silence instead of breaking it. Even ordinary moments have started feeling incomplete without understanding why. Stay till the end. Because there is a reason your spirit feels emotionally connected to this message even if your mind still questions it. The house itself carries traces of unfinished hope. There is a bookshelf inside where certain empty spaces remain untouched, almost as though room was unconsciously left for another person's memories. There is a soft blanket folded neatly across the corner of a couch that no guest has ever used. There is even a drawer in the kitchen left half empty without purpose. Strange, isn't it? How people sometimes prepare space emotionally before they even know who they are preparing it for. And maybe that is what is happening here. Maybe two futures are slowly learning how to recognize each other before they fully collide. The most beautiful part is this: the person connected to this home does not need perfection anymore. They no longer dream about impressive things. What they want now is realness. Calm mornings. Honest conversations. Someone who understands that healing is not always loud. Someone who can sit beside them without needing to perform happiness every second. Somewhere along the way, they became tired of temporary people. And without realizing it, they started waiting for someone who feels like peace instead of confusion. Can you feel how personal this is becoming now? Because the picture almost disappeared for a reason. It appeared briefly, just long enough to leave behind a feeling impossible to ignore. Almost like a message crossing paths with the exact person it was meant to find. And maybe that sounds impossible. But so many meaningful things begin quietly before they become undeniable. There is another detail hidden inside this story that nobody else has noticed yet. One evening, while reorganizing part of the house, they uncovered an old handwritten note tucked inside a drawer. The handwriting belonged to someone from their past, but the words no longer felt connected to old memories. Instead, one sentence stayed in their mind long after reading it. One day this house will finally feel alive again. They froze after reading it. Because for the first time, they believed it. Not because of furniture. Not because of decoration. Because of a feeling they cannot escape anymore. The feeling that someone is moving toward them whose presence will change the emotional atmosphere of everything they once thought was permanently quiet. And strangely enough, ever since then, they have stopped calling it their house in their thoughts. Now, without meaning to, they sometimes imagine it as ours. That thought scares them a little. But it also makes them smile in ways they cannot hide anymore. The next part of this story changes everything because soon, the reason this picture was almost deleted will finally begin revealing itself. And when that truth surfaces, you will understand why this connection feels deeper than coincidence and softer than fantasy at the exact same time. There are moments in life that feel small while they are happening, but later become the exact point where everything quietly began changing. This story is moving toward one of those moments now. And the deeper you step into it, the more you realize the picture was never important because of what could be seen clearly. It mattered because of what could be felt underneath it. The silence. The anticipation. The strange emotional warmth hidden behind ordinary details. The reason the picture was almost deleted is finally beginning to surface. Not because it contained something dangerous. Because it revealed too much emotionally. The person connected to this house had shown the image to almost no one. They kept it private without fully understanding why. But after staring at it again late one evening, they suddenly felt exposed in a way they had not expected. Vulnerable. Hopeful. Seen. It frightened them for a moment because the image captured something they had spent years trying to hide from themselves, the quiet desire to finally share life with someone who feels like home instead of uncertainty. And for a few seconds, they almost erased the picture completely. Not out of fear of others. Out of fear that the future they secretly wanted might actually become real. Don't skip this part. Because this is where the emotional truth beneath everything finally starts breathing openly. There is a room inside the house they rarely allow people to enter. Not because it contains anything valuable, but because it holds memories they never learned how to explain properly. Old dreams. Unfinished versions of themselves. Pieces of a softer heart they protected after disappointment taught them caution. Yet recently, they cleaned that room for the first time in a long while. Slowly. Carefully. Almost unconsciously preparing it. And while standing there alone, something crossed their mind that they could not shake afterward. Someone important will eventually stand here beside me. That thought stayed with them all night. You have to understand, this person is not someone who easily trusts emotions. They learned long ago how fragile expectations can become. That is why what is happening now feels so meaningful. Because despite every reason to remain guarded, their heart keeps leaning toward the future instead of hiding from it. And somehow, your presence exists inside that future even before your arrival fully begins. There are evenings ahead where the atmosphere inside this house becomes unforgettable. Soft lights glowing while rain taps gently against windows. Quiet conversations stretching longer than expected because neither of you wants the moment to end yet. Laughter appearing unexpectedly after heavy days. Silence that feels comforting instead of empty. The kind of peace people search years for without realizing it often begins in the smallest ordinary moments. That is the life slowly trying to reach you now. Not perfection. Not fantasy. Something calmer. Something real. Something that allows both of you to finally stop pretending you are stronger alone than together. And there is one detail about the picture nobody else would notice unless they looked closely enough. Near the edge of the image sits an empty space beside the window. Nothing dramatic. Just enough room for someone else to sit comfortably. But when they looked at that spot again recently, their chest tightened emotionally because for the first time, it no longer looked empty to them. They could feel someone there already. Not physically. Spiritually. Emotionally. Quietly. Almost like your energy had arrived before your footsteps ever could. Stay till the end. Because something even more personal is beginning to unfold now. The person connected to this house has started changing little habits lately without realizing why. They wake earlier. They care more about the atmosphere inside the home. They pause while shopping and suddenly think about what another person might like. They even catch themselves smiling during completely ordinary moments now. And every time it happens, there is one thought they never say aloud. What if someone beautiful is finally on their way into my life? That question no longer scares them the way it once did. It comforts them. And maybe the reason this message feels so emotional is because somewhere deep inside, you understand that feeling too. The longing for a connection that feels gentle instead of draining. The desire for a place where your soul can finally exhale without fear of being misunderstood. This story is not rushing because real emotional shifts never rush. They unfold slowly, like sunrise entering a dark room one quiet inch at a time. And the next part will reveal the moment when this person finally stops resisting what their heart already knows about you. The moment everything inside them changes from wondering to waiting.